So we can see that the audience of Asian artists is increasing more and more. Can you speak about that? Related to Art Basel Hong Kong?
Well, I think, if anything, I think we always remain very, very grateful from the perspective of Art Basel Hong Kong for the strong support of Asia, from Asia. I think every year our show is very strongly supported by the Asian collectors, and I think it's also very interesting to watch over the past few years as the numbers grow, the numbers of visitors grow. If you ask me, I would say that who make up the Asian audience, I would say that a strong percentage obviously from Hong Kong, China, Taiwan, Korea, Japan, Southeast Asia, and of course not forgetting India, Australia, New Zealand. The growing numbers are super interesting. I think, especially over the past few months as I've been traveling, meeting with collectors, and also just generally observing that I think it's really wonderful that, every year we encounter younger audience, younger collectors, particularly from Korea, India, Indonesia.
But they are more and more interested by
much more
Asian artists.
Absolutely, and also the interest in Asian artists in itself, because I think also I feel like information is becoming more accessible about art. I mean, I remember 10 years ago, as I said to you, when I was working in the art world, that like magazines which are not art magazines or say not art publications would never really write about art. But now you can find articles about artists, galleries, or just general art information in magazines, in newspapers, online. So I think that really makes a huge difference. I think that really changes one's feelings and approach towards art, because suddenly it doesn't feel like it's an impossible territory to enter,
Yes, and you said also that the Asian artists are more interesting in a way.
I think it's definitely, I feel like there's always, the thing about Asian art and Asian artists is like, I think for the longest time, we were all inaccessible to each other because of language. I think if you can't, if you can read Mandarin or Chinese, then you have access to a certain set of information. And if you're reading English, then obviously a different set of information. But let's not forget, you've got Korean, you've got articles and texts written in Korean, in Japanese, and in India there's so many different languages itself.
Yes.
And it's really, I think, like, I would like to think like in the past 10 years or so that information is becoming more accessible because they're getting translated. I think there are more chances for encounters, as in even face-to-face meeting with one another. I think there are more events around Asia that bring people, the art world, together now. I think there's more exchange. I think that makes a difference.
So do you think it became more natural for a Korean or a Chinese to buy Philippine or to buy Korean?
I think definitely it's growing. I think traditionally the relationship with Southeast Asia has quite an interesting relationship with, say, Taiwan, Australia, Japan, India to some extent. But I think over the past few years, again, you're seeing the diversity grow. You're seeing the overlaps take place in a much more unconventional manner. Like as you mentioned, a Chinese collector, for example, buying Japanese or buying Southeast Asian art, which he or she will not normally encounter in the past, like say maybe 10-20 years ago.
That's
or
interesting.
Like Japanese collectors buying mainland Chinese art.
So it means there's a crossover.
Yeah, the crossover.
In Asia.
Yeah, I think if you just really literally plotted the dots, you drew the lines, you realize that it's really growing in ways that are defying our typical stereotypes.
Merci.